Alright guys, welcome to RC Mojo. Back to the Tiger one today, and because I forgot to set the camera, you get it in glorious 1080p 50. Last time we roughly fitted the electronics and got the chassis rolling, so today we're going to fit the upper hull. First job is to pop off the turret so we're not constantly getting spiked by the barrel. From the underside, disconnect the 3-pin elevation connector and remove the 3 screws around the big gear. The turret will simply fall away. It's probably worth noting that this tank is the current revision, at least at the time of making the video it is. I've seen some pics of Tiger 1s with a different connector block, so just make sure you keep track of which goes where with your tank if you're trying to follow along at home. Anyway, with the turret off we get a much easier to handle lump. Next we've got the front mounting plate, tongue widget thing, which should fit nicely in the middle. But there's this big bit hanging away in the breeze there. It's designed to fit the older moulding where Heng Long had a central post for attaching the upper and lower hull. They now have 2 posts, which isn't much use for fitting the tongue. There's a few ways you could mount it. You could probably get away with just gluing it in with some epoxy. But I'd be a bit worried if someone lifts up the tank in the wrong way. It's a lot of weight for a glue joint. Instead, I'm going to use a screw. First, the plate needs to get flattened out. It doesn't need to be perfect. Then we can use a short countersunk screw to attach it. The plate should fit with the angle bit at the back, so there's a small overhang at the front that fits in a slot at the front of the chassis. Quite a basic mount, but I reckon it's going to work just fine. We need to find the center point so we can mount it in just the right spot. It just so happens that this bit is a nice round 12 centimeters, so we just need to stick a spot in at 6 centimeters, then take a line off it with a square. If we hold the plate over the line, get it in the middle of the hole and mark it, we've got a perfect position for the hole. The usual method for drilling a hole will do. Mark the hole with a punch, drill it out with a small sharp bit, then go up to the correct size. In this case we've got an M3 screw, so a 3mm drill will do the job nicely. On the top side we need to countersink the hole with, not surprisingly, a countersink bit. You need to keep the drill absolutely 90 degrees to the surface or the countersink will end up being elliptical. You want the screw head to fit just ever so slightly below the surface. It's best to go in small steps as you really don't want to overshoot. Now we can mount it all up. The screw goes through the hull and the mounting plate with a washer and a plain M3 nut. Do it up and we're done. The screw head isn't too obtrusive as it is. With the shovel on the front it won't stand out much at all. But because we carefully made sure the head was just below the surface, we can give it a skim of filler when we get to the detail stage and it's going to disappear completely. Might as well do a quick test fit. The front slots in nicely and the back should just drop down. Nope, something's in the way. Yeah, the turret motor is offset to one side and it's colliding with the speaker box. That means we'll have to mount it on the other side. First we'll need to remove those lumps, but we'll do that later. Okay, without the speaker, it fits fairly well. Nice. Rear mounts next. If I shine a torch in, you can see the rear mounting posts nicely line up with the release mechanism. So luckily, Heng Long haven't changed that bit. The post should stick just through the slot when the release is in its closed position. To go on the end of the post, the chassis comes with 2 of these little widgets. These become the hooks that keep the hull together. They mount on the ends of the post with the supplied screws. You want the curvy bit to go on one side, so when pushed the mechanism opens when you press the upper hull down. When you've made sure you've got them the right way round, tighten up the screws. And you really want to make sure you've got them the right way round. If you get them wrong, they have a habit of latching with no means of unclipping them. If we pop the hull back together, the back end should just press down and latch. Nice. Now I can't really see the camera display, but I think you might just be able to see the latch in place. Just. It should be fully located. If it's not, you might need a thin washer between the post and the metal bit just to space it off. Right, next. The switches are currently just stuck up on the side with some servo tape. Not ideal, as you need to pop the top off to turn it on. And on a cold day when your fingers aren't responding to commands, it's going to get rather frustrating. We need to be able to switch them on and off from the outside. I had a few thoughts, but on going through the IMEX Tiger Tank Kit manual again, I noticed the main switch is supposed to fit on these posts. Not the best fit, but it'll do. When the top goes on, they line up pretty well with these front hatches. Unfortunately, they're moulded in, so they don't open. Well, Taigen to the rescue again with a set of metal hatches that do open. Nice. It's not quite a bolt-in upgrade, we need to do some cutting. Luckily though, there's a relief on the underside that's just the right size, and there's a couple of small posts that line up with the hatch mounting plate. Now it's going to be a good idea to remove the turret rotation gearbox so we don't fill it up with plastic dust. It's only held in with 3 screws. I'm going to remove all the pressed in accessories as well so we don't end up losing any. Okay, step 1 is to cut the plastic to match the relief in the bottom, being very careful not to overdo it. There we go. I've left a very slight lip so we can tidy it up later. Now we need to take the beveled ridge down to a level with the top surface. Well, it doesn't take too long to do. It's a little rough and we can always fill and sand before painting, but the hatches will cover up most of it anyway. The hatch drops in nicely, and from the underside the mount can get pressed into the posts for a test. And it looks pretty good to me. I think for now I'm going to use a spot of medium cyno to hold it in. It'll stop it coming loose from vibration, but should still be easy to crack it off later so we can paint it. Same goes for the other hatch, bit of cyno and press the mounting plate in. Looks a bit better I think. The stock mouldings did look a bit tall. Okay, while that dries there's a couple of bits we can do on the chassis. The power switch fits fairly well between the posts at the front. It's a little big, but there's enough give that it's going to work. 2 of the smaller self-tappers from the kit will do to hold it in. Be careful with the wires, they have an unfused connection to the battery, so a short could be rather catastrophic, and I can already see the joints are starting to show signs of fatigue. We're going to have to rewire it at some point with a bit of stress relief. The smoker switch goes on the other side, where there's only 1 mounting post, but it seems to hold it in place just fine. The only other electrical bit is the volume pot, and I can't see anywhere it's supposed to be mounted. And since it's already intermittent, you have to fiddle with it a bit to get any sound at all. I'll probably replace it with something I can mount somewhere I can get to from the outside. At the very front there's a metal bit that braces the front of the chassis. Now I probably should have put it on sooner, but I put the metal parts bag to one side and promptly forgot all about it. No worries though, we can still get to everything, it's just a bit more fiddly. We should be able to get a short M3 screw up through the side bit, except the hole isn't fully formed, but that's nothing we can't sort with a drill, just a quick pass with a 3mm bit to clean them out. So, screw up from the bottom, metal plate on, followed by a nut. Screw in the other side and pull the chassis sides together until the plate pops over the second screw and fit a nut. With everything nicely seated, do up the nuts. The screw head should grip the plastic well enough that you can get them all done up nice and tight. Well, it does look a little more braced. The cyno on the hatches should be pretty much dry by now, so let's see how it all lines up. Tongue in at the front and firmly drop the back in. Now if all's gone to plan, the switches should be under the hatches. Yep, there's the smoke switch, nice and central, and there's the main switch, perfectly accessible from the outside with the lid on. Lovely. One really big thing that we've been missing since we opened the original box, the lack of front mounted shovel. The stock one was an incomplete moulding, so I got these metal replacements, which didn't actually fit the holes. I think now is a good time to mount it. If I hold it roughly in the right position, the right hand peg lines up perfectly with the little nub on the hull moulding. So I'll cut it flush with a knife and pop it with a punch, drill it out to fit the peg, and half fit the shovel and mark where the other peg falls. Double check the distance from the front edge with a ruler, pop it with a punch, drill it, and press in the shovel. Nice. It's almost a relief having a front mounted shovel. I would love to go and fit all the rest, but none of them line up with the stock holes. We've got lots to do before we can test run the tank, so I'll stick the plastic bits back on for now and sort out the metal bits later. Right, we're all but done with the upper hull, so the turret can go back on. Slip the wires through, making sure they don't get caught up, and reinstall the 3 screws we took out earlier. The rotation motor can go back on too with its 3 screws. And route the wires in the little slot so they stay out of the main gear, which is easier said than done, but not impossible. Back to the chassis for a bit. Earlier we found the speaker wouldn't clear the rotation gearbox in the upper hull, so we need to move it to this side. First, we needed to trim off the lumps for the Taigen speaker, which is amazingly quick and easy to do with an edit. Now we have a flat surface, we can mount the speaker on this side. Nice. For now, I'm going to stick the volume pot back down with a bit more servo tape, just to keep it out of the way. Next, I think we're going to sort out the smoker tubes, as they come up a bit short. Okay, apparently if you wiggle the pipes a bit, the right angled bit pops off the top, and that's going to make life much easier. We need to remove the tube completely from the right angle widgets. It's been glued on, so you need to get a knife under it. Be careful, as it would be very easy to slip and cause a leak in a finger. The tubes do come off though, leaving a pair of nice clean right angle bits. Yeah. For the new tube we want some neoprene tubing, often sold in car parts places as windscreen washer tube, available in lots of sizes, but I would recommend visiting somewhere and trying it for size and see what fits best. The two sizes I have here are a bit big and a bit small, but I already had them in the garage. The smaller tube fits nicely in the holes in the back panel. We can cut the end at an angle so the smoke can escape and mark the top with a marker pen. The small tube is too small to fit over the right angle bits, but it does fit nicely inside the bigger tube, which fits nicely on the right angle bits. And if you followed that, you can congratulate yourself. Basically, it's a right angle bit, big tube, small tube with the end cut at an angle and the top marked with a pen. When both tubes are a perfect fit, pop them off and use a tiny bit of medium cyno to stick them in place. I think we should do a quick test before the upper hull goes back on. Battery connected, power on, start the engine, and of course turn the smoker switch on. That helps quite a bit. Right, let's let it warm up. Yeah, and there's the smoke. Lovely. And I'm pretty sure there's more smoke than there was before too. Perfect. I'm a bit worried about the wires going to the switch, so for now I'm going to loosely zip tie them to the metal crosspiece, just to reduce the amount that they can move. Not a permanent solution, but it'll help for now. Turret testing now. Before we fully fit it, the large connector only has one socket to connect to, so that's easy. However, the BB gun has a 2-pin connector, and the RX-18 doesn't have a 2-pin socket for it to fit into. It needs to get plugged in right up at one end of CN3, MG Fire. It's easy to get it in the wrong place, just make sure you get it right on the end 2 pins. Right, power on, and the lights flash, that's a good sign. Engine running, and steady lights. The turret turns. And it goes up and down. Nice. I won't try the main gun as the track recoil is going to throw bits all over the place. Now we know it's all working, the upper hull can slot into place and the rear can be latched down. From the stock chassis we'll need the rubber intake hoses. They just pull off. They might be a little bit stubborn, but they do come free after a bit of a wiggle. The straps can come off the upper hull and the hoses slide into place. We'll need to come up with something else for these, as when they're fitted they make it all but impossible to remove the upper hull for access to all the innards. I'm thinking probably something with magnets. Well, now it's all back together, we can thoroughly test the ergonomics. Simply lift the conveniently positioned hatch, insert finger and slide the switch. Couldn't be better really. Certainly a huge upgrade over the switches being mounted on the bottom of the stock hull. There's much less chance of water working its way in. All that's left now is the next tour of garden. You can really see the weight of the tank. The stock tank almost bounces over the smallest obstacle, but with all the added weight it's a really stable platform. Just what you want from a mobile BB gun. One thing though, the lure of metal parts is strong. I'm looking at those LED headlights and thinking the metal ones with the little horizontal slit would look so much better, and maybe the machine gun, there's a metal one of them. The temptation is very real. Anyway, that's going to do for this week, so thanks for watching, like if you liked, and of course if you're not already, why not subscribe? It's free after all. Bye guys.